pressing them back against the river. When we rode up, they turned and waited for General Johnston to speak, and when he had greeted them with that careful courtesy he always used, Beauregard began to repeat what he had been saying to the others. He favored canceling the movement, returning to Corinth. Just hearing him say it, I suddenly felt tired all over. "There is no chance for surprise," he said, shaking his head and shrugging his shoulders with that French way he had. "They'll be entrenched to the eyes." General Johnston looked at him for a moment without saying anything, then turned to Bishop Polk. They had roomed together at West Point, and asked what he thought. Men in the passing column turned their heads, watching, but they did not cheer because they could see this was a conference. The bishop said his troops were eager for battle. They had left Corinth on the way to a fight, he said, and if they didn't find one, they would be as demoralized as if they had been whipped. He said it in that deep pulpit voice of his. It was as if I could hear his vestments rustle. It sounded fine. General Bragg said he felt the same way about it. He would as soon be defeated as return without fighting. General Breckinridge, commander of the reserve, rode up while Bragg was speaking. He lifted his eyebrows, surprised that withdrawal was even being considered. He sided with Bragg and Bishop Polk. General Hardee was the only corps commander not present, but there was no doubt which side he would favor. Hardee was always spoiling for a fight. When General Johnston had heard them out, he drew himself up in the saddle, leather creaking, and said quietly, "Gentlemen, we shall attack at daylight tomorrow." It was as if a weight had been lifted from my shoulders and I could breathe. He told them to form their corps according to the order and to have the troops sleep on their arms in line of battle. As he pulled his horse aside, passing me, he spoke to Colonel Preston. "I would fight them if they were 1,000,000, he said. "They can present no greater front between those two creeks than we can, and the more men they crowd in there, the worse we can make it for them." I never knew anyone who did not think immediately that General Johnston was the finest-looking man he had ever seen, and everyone who ever knew him loved him. He was a big man, well over 6 feet and close to 200 pounds in weight, neither fat nor lean. He gave at once an impression of strength and gentleness. His expression was calm as we rode away, but his eyes were shining. That was as it should be, for this was his hour of vindication after 2 months of retreat and ugly talk which had followed adulation. When he crossed the desert from California in '61, dodging Apaches and Federal squadrons from cavalry posts along the way, and started north for Richmond from New Orleans, he was hailed as the savior of liberty. And when he reported to General Davis in September, he was appointed general commanding the Western Department of the Army of the Confederate States of America. A long title, responsible for maintaining the integrity of a line which stretched from Virginia to Kansas along the northern frontier of our new nation. That was a lot of line, but no one then, so far as I ever heard, doubted his ability to do whatever was required of him. This was largely because they did not know what forces he had to do it with. He had 20,000 poorly organized, poorly equipped troops to defend the area between the mountains of eastern Kentucky and the Mississippi River. By January, he had managed to double that number, disposing them this way: Polk on the left at Columbus opposing Grant, Hardee in the center at Bowling Green opposing Sherman, and Zollicoffer on the right at Cumberland Gap opposing Thomas. At each of these points, his commanders were outnumbered 2 and 3 to 1. Hoping to hold off the Federal offensive so that he would have more time to build and shape his army, he announced that his situation was good, that he had plenty of troops, and that he had no fears about holding his ground. His statements were printed in all the papers, North and South. These were high times. Everyone still drunk on Manassas, and politicians talking about whipping the enemy with cornstalks, and the only disagreement among our people back home was whether one Southern volunteer was worth 10 Yankee hirelings or a dozen. 10 was the figure most frequently quoted, for people's minds ran mostly to round numbers in those days. The general must have known that reverses were coming, and he must have known, too, that when they came, the people would not understand.